We are live. Ta-da.
Oh my god. What is that coming to your screen? That's right. It's Quick Reviews with us. Oh, I got the notification. We are live.
Oh.
Thank God.
If anyone's wondering why OTD sounds like he's on drugs, it's because he woke up recently.
This is early morning.
It's like
Quick
1 p.m. for me, so it's not a big deal.
What drugs would I be on? Just the good old
just
Mary Jane.
Benadryl.
Those drugs. Mm. Oh, right. I'm ready to go.
All right, let's watch this thing. This is Revival by SethComposerGuy, and we're going to hit the play button as soon as I count down. So, 3, 2, 1, go.
Wow, shit, it messed up because it was clicked on the...
Oh.
Start it over.
Now let's start this over. Okay, 3, 2, 1, go.
Oh, yeah. I love me some SethComposerGuy Yanni.
It's Beats Antique.
All SethComposerGuy music is Yanni.
So, Cloud.
I like this opening just because it gives me sort of that nostalgia for Bug Attack.
Bug Attack, right, by Crates.
Which was one of those like early tracks that I watched that I was like, what's going on here? And then we go to Contact Juggling for a second.
And now we're in Bug Attack but XY.
Bug Attack but XY, but also sort of...
And then more Contact Juggling. And now Bug Attack but 45 degree.
And it has to be a little more obvious about which parts it's stacking.
And now, that's probably my favorite part of this whole opening half. And now we're in just straight up, I mean, I guess it's Bug Attack again, I don't know. And then...
Bug Attack, but octagonal.
More
and then
Contact Point Juggling. And then now this is XYZ, which is not really an accurate term, but it's good enough.
To the left, but 45. And now we're
in Van Gogh painting.
Which I think is kind of neat if it was done a little less.
And this is one of my
weird.
favorites. That's pretty cool right there.
Yeah, that's good.
And now we got dots flying all over the screen doing animation things, which is interesting. I don't know if it fits the music, but it's now is when I start to be like, I like this track. And then here.
Yep.
Best part is right at the end there.
Yep.
Easily.
Absolutely. I love to see animated Star of Davids do things with the music.
So I guess for me it's like, it's kind of like funner in terms of my emotional arc while watching this, where it's like there's like a couple things where I'm like, ooh, that's interesting. And then, like, right at the end, it just, like, blows the roof off, and I'm like, this is so cool! But then it's, like, by contrast, the first, like, 80% of the track seems kind of boring.
If there's one thing I've thought about lately, it's that a good line writer track has a hard time holding my... Oh, or not even a good line writer track, just a lot of line writer tracks that have been made ever have a hard time holding my attention constantly. Like, Transcendental did a good job of that because it was constantly, like, changing into interesting, like, scenes that I was looking at the details of, right?
Yes.
But, like, you can only watch Bug Attack so many times before you're like, I have seen this song and dance over and over.
Yeah.
Because I think it's good to sort of represent moments of confusion as well, but it's just... After a certain point,
it feels like it's just like, here's chaos, now stare at it for 2 minutes, and it's like, but why, you know? But then when we get to the high speed, I mean, this is the color replay, but when we get to the high speed part, it gets way more interesting. It still kind of feels like it's just sort of pulling ideas out of nowhere, a la inspiration, but like,
it's doing it to the music now.
I don't think it really does it to the music until right at the end, honestly. Like that last little bit with the star, it's like, that feels like it's really align nicely with the music. But a lot of it just feels like, I don't know, maybe like the flings are aligned with the music, but it's kind of hard to see when they're going so fast. All right, you want to watch it again or watch it in slow-mo?
Either works.
Let's just watch it again, and then we can watch it in slow-mo after.
Yep.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go.
I feel like SethComposerGuy was kind of ahead of his time with the fade into still image start it editing, because it's relatively simple and it gets the point across.
Yeah, I've enjoyed using that more and more in my more recent stuff, because it's like, it's really nice where it's like, here's what it's gonna do, and then you go.
Yeah, it resolves the image that you're gonna start with, and so you're not just
thrown into it like, what's happening, you know. I do feel like I mean, we talked about this when Interrobang came out, but like contact juggling, if it's just dots that follow contact points, it's just not interesting. Like, mostly because, one, you can't actually tell in the moment that it's following contact points, and two, it's just like, if that's all you're doing, it's just really uncreative. I like this part because you can actually see the line change, and it creates this nice sort of like tension resolve moment where it's like, wah, boom. Whereas this just looks like a mess, right?
We have this problem, just as a community when we make tracks, where something will be a neat
and like this
concept.
is like an interesting idea, but like for me it's like, if I'm SCG making that track, I would try it and then be like, that doesn't look that great, and then try something else, and it seems like he just kept it. This is really cool. And then I was like, why didn't you, like, I don't know, do that the whole time, you know, do stuff that actually looked cool. It's like he just kept it without bothering to, like, figure out if it looks good, you know?
Yeah.
This stuff also looks cool, but then until we get to the end here and it, like, really locks in and looks really, like, it works really well. The earlier parts, it feels like it all looks cool, but like Funspiration, it all looks cool, but like, why is this happening? And like, is there any rhyme or reason to these things moving around the screen? What were you gonna say about, you were trying to make a larger point, but I wanted to talk about the specifics that were flying by.
Someone will make something that is interesting and it has a lot of possible like applications and is like sort of a fun thing to try out, like contact juggling, and people will be like, "Oh shit, that's a cool technique" or whatever,
and then copy it.
And then the rest of the community will then spend the next, I would say, 6 months completely just misapplying it, or applying it like completely indiscriminately.
Well, I think usually when people come up with ideas like that, oftentimes it's just, here's this cool idea, and people look at it and go, that's a really cool idea. But then instead of like adding a twist to it, people will often just straight up copy it. Like, this is what happened with,
I'm gonna do this idea as well.
This is something that happens when you take like an artistic medium and you apply like a gamer perspective to it, where you're like, I'm just gonna do what other people are doing that looks like it's working, you know? And it's like, that's how you get good at a game, is you take techniques and you recreate them yourself. Like, that's how you get good at like speed running, for example. But that's not how art works. Art, like, you can't just copy other people and expect people to react the same way that they do, you know. That's not how you get better at art, is copying. I mean, it's part of how you get better at art, but there has to be an element of you adding something of value to it.
Okay, so I just thought of this. This might be perhaps spitballing, but
let's start this up at quarter speed.
Yeah. I just had a thought about this, and
I'm gonna count down, and then you can tell me.
Yep.
Ready? 3, 2, 1, go.
So, I take it you're familiar with the term ludonarrative dissonance, right?
No.
Okay, so it's a term in games. It's a term in games. I'm going to use BioShock as the example because it was the first example somebody cited of ludonarrative dissonance, where the game's story tells you to do one thing, and its mechanics tell you to do another, right? So in
Mm-hmm.
BioShock, which is a game that critiques libertarianism and rampant selfish behavior, the
Mm-hmm.
mechanics themselves encourage that selfish behavior, or at the very least, don't discourage them. So there's a dissonance between what the mechanics are suggesting you should do and what the story is suggesting is a moral and righteous thing. And so
Right. Yeah.
there's tension between two different aspects of the game.
Yeah.
And I think with Line Rider has its I wouldn't say it's a ludonarrative dissonance, but I think it's sort of an applied form of it maybe, where uh, when you're making things in Line Rider, there are mechanics that tell you this should be played like a game. Uh, at least that's sort of how you're primed to look at it if you're starting this as a 14-year-old on
Especially in
Miniquickie.
LRA.
Yeah, in LRA, it's like here are some things that enable you to access the game mechanics better
Yeah. Yeah.
and tell you, hey, this is how
I mean,
you
you
can play this.
have you have mechanics named after tricks. Like you have gravity
Yeah,
well, like show gravity wells. Like it's literally named
yeah,
after a physics glitch that people exploited to, it's a
yeah,
tool um, designed it to help people create a specific trick.
right.
Um,
But when the audience is looking at these tracks, a general audience that is, not an audience full of uh, like gamers who are familiar with the mechanics of the game, they're seeing it as something that is art or is trying to have meaning or something like that,
at least that's the
right?
hope.
That's
At least by myself.
well, and like they're looking at it for like what is in here that I recognize.
Yeah.
And if you're not familiar with the mechanics, it's like if you're watching like a Call of Duty sniping montage and you don't play Call of Duty,
Yeah,
right?
exactly, exactly.
And I, it's so there's this distance between like what we've encouraged and what we've uh, told people is the sort of the good, cool, and accepted thing to do in the game versus how people perceive the game in a
Yeah.
very general sense.
And do
Uh,
you want to tie this back to this track
yes,
and
yes,
explain
absolutely,
how you came up with this?
absolutely. So uh, this track, in a very general sense, reminds me of how we play games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because oftentimes levels in games are permutations or variations on a theme, right?
Right, yeah. It'll
It'd be like,
introduce something and then introduce a slightly more
yeah,
complex variation, introduce a separate thing, and then
yeah.
introduce them combined.
Like in Mario World, they introduce platforms and blocks, and then they do those in
Yeah,
increasingly and sort of fractally different and difficult variations,
yeah,
with tweaks to gravity, with tweaks to position, with tweaks to sort of airspeed, that kind of thing.
yeah. But then a line writer track is not a level to be played. It's
Right.
a video that you watch.
But when you're making a line writer track, you can see him sort of quote unquote progressing through levels as he made this. Like,
Yeah,
okay, I
yeah,
make this, now I make this, and so there's this the same sense of reward that you get from completing a level.
yeah.
Uh,
But it's not like
but the end product isn't presented as uh, a game, and the experience of posting the video isn't necessarily um, it would be the viewer experience is completely different when you're posting this as opposed to like posting game footage, right?
yeah,
And so,
because we're not seeing him make it. We're just seeing the end product.
yep. So we
That's
don't.
a, yeah, that's a really salient point.
Mhm.
And I have often felt like a lot of the time when people make Omni tracks, it's more like I'm gonna do this because it's a thing, and then I'm gonna do this because it's a thing, and then I'm gonna do this because it's a thing. But there's no
These are self-created.
overarching purpose that there's no overarching not purpose, but like I mean kind of, but like there's no overarching uh message you're trying to convey to someone other than look at me do all these different things, right?
Yep. And what it is it's
And so it's in a
performative, and
way it's like watching a let's play except only the game footage, you
or
know.
perhaps, or it's like looking at certain types of uh, level design and being uh, like, hey, here's my water level, here's my desert level,
Yeah.
uh, but we've sort of self-defined these kind of styles for us to go through, and so
Yeah.
uh,
But then
in
also
the
the styles are not
in the
based. Oh, go ahead.
in the absence of a game, we've created one to help sort of fuel our own competitive desire.
Yeah, yeah. Well, because a lot of the people who got into Line Rider were gamers
Yep,
discovering an art medium, but still thinking of it as a game. Um,
yep.
oh, I had a point. I forgot what it was. Do you want to talk about this animation at the end? Um, some things I feel like there's some kind of a point here because there's dots moving, there's lines connecting dots, and there's like there's moving shapes here towards the end, and it's really cool how it lines up with the music, but it's just for like a brief moment, and then I don't know, maybe another thing that I personally am struggling with is like this whole dots and simple shapes. It just feels very constrained to me. I don't know.
It
What are your
feels
thoughts on that?
well, in light of the framework that we established recently, it feels like instead of using it as uh, a tool to convey something, like one when designing a level might sort of build a narrative behind that level to sort of convey a larger point. Instead of doing that, it's extra special effects to make it look neat.
Yeah.
It serves no higher purpose because there's no higher purpose for it to serve.
Yeah, it's like I watch so many tracks that I watch. It feels like here's a whole bunch of tools people could make to make cool tracks, but no one ever actually makes the cool tracks because people don't know how to apply them, you know. And I'm not just like saying like everyone else. Like I personally don't know how to apply them either because we're not trying to apply them, and so it's very hard to like be like, how do I apply this when no one else is applying it, you know?
Yeah. When will we apply it?
Yeah, so it's like here's all these tools that we have to create things, but what are we using them for other than to create more tools, you know?
Hmm.
Um, it's kind of like what was that? What was there was like that remark that you made where you were comparing basically you were comparing Quirk to like into thin air, which is like people dying trying to go up Mount Everest, which is I think there was some criticism that was kind of correct in like that's not remotely that extreme and it's not endangering people's lives to
And
create
that wasn't
Quirk.
and that wasn't the point I was
But
making.
it was maybe an
Yeah.
odd comparison. But like I think the point you were trying to make was just along this lines of like is there any reason we're developing these tools other than to develop more tools? And if all we're doing is developing tools to put into a thing that is basically meaningless, um, I don't know.
What are we? Why are we doing
Yeah.
this?
And I think that's the question that people like eventually ask themselves as you're making a line round track is why am I doing this? And
and I think I think one of
and
the
I
reasons there are so few people left is because nobody's found an answer.
Yeah, and I don't. Yeah, that's the thing is I don't think we have any good answers to the big why. Um, I mean, I could show you some tracks that I think provide like an idea of something that may get close to an answer. And I'm trying to make tracks that get close to an answer, but I don't think we have like a clear like stock answer to that question that is satisfying and exciting to anyone, you know?
Yeah.
So I don't
Because
know.
there's often talk about like things we can do to make Line Rider popular, and it's like if we don't have any kind of underlying purpose
To
to
why
what
we
we're
make the tracks the way we make the tracks.
to what we're doing, why we're doing, then any sort of hope of having an audience as large as uh, anything else, anything really,
Yeah.
uh, is kind of pointless. Uh, it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's like
the,
people.
if
It's like we've long held this idea in the community that like all we need is just one viral video, and then people will just start playing Line Rider. And guess what? We've had like 3 or 4 of those, and no one starts playing Line Rider because it's not interesting. Because people don't look at it and be like, "Oh, I could create that," because that would affect other people in what way? No way at all. It wouldn't affect other people. You know, like I mean, the only thing interesting to most people about Line Rider for most of the things that we're creating is just the fact that someone sat down and created that, and they're
Yep.
mostly people are just like, wow, that would have taken a million years on something that is, you know, seemingly pointless. Kind of cool that that person was able to dedicate that much time to something seemingly pointless, but that's kind of
Yeah.
where the interest ends. You know, there's no
Pe-
like,
pe-
I want to do
people
that.
are
You know.
people are fascinated with the Line Rider community only insofar as they are with the people making them, and a sort of a character study
Yeah,
of
yeah,
people spending lots of time on projects very few people will see,
yeah.
in the hopes that people will see them.
And that's I think that's why people are so interested in those few tracks that do go viral is like it's you know it's people going, wow, I can't believe someone actually did this, you know, but not
Yep.
this thing is really cool. um I want to watch more things by this person. I want to watch more Line Rider track creations by other people. And there are some people that do react that way, but it's very, very small compared to the vast, vast, vast majority of people that see it and go, these people are ridiculous, and all right, moving on.
Yep. And I think it pays to be kind of a little bit like self-aware about that.
Yeah.
Because, like,
Anyway, about this
yeah,
track, more specifically.
yeah, we diverge from the point a
We,
lot here,
a lot of
or
our
we
reviews are doing
use
this
these.
lately.
Yeah. Well,
I would just
because
say like most of it, like most of these sections at the beginning, like you said, I think it's defined like video game levels. It looks like variations on a theme, but the theme itself is basically bug attack, which is maybe an interesting tool, but not interesting to just watch. I don't know what's a good analogy. Oh, like what's a really cool smash technique that people use? Just name
uh,
anything.
I don't know specific, like
Just like one. Okay, so I don't have anything off the top of my head, but like one specific trick.
like a jab log,
Okay,
a
so
jab log.
whatever that is, I don't even know what that is, but like
Yeah.
that's a cool tool that someone came up with and was like, look, I figured out how to do this, right?
Mhm.
But if you were gonna watch a video of someone just being like, let me demonstrate all the different ways to do this, it wouldn't be interesting to anyone who wasn't invested in the game themselves, you know? It wouldn't
Yeah.
be interesting to anyone who was like, um, I'm watching people compete with each other in Smash tournaments. People would be like, I don't want to watch your video about how to do 10 million variations on a Jablog.
Yeah. And like
And so I think where this track shines the best is when it breaks out of that a little bit and it tries some things. And it's frustrating because I can see that like those things are like, I need something to fill in the spaces here, so I'm going to do some animation. And some of it works and some of it doesn't. And I wish there had been more thought put into like what worked and what didn't, and like, you know, and not more work in terms of just making things that are more elaborate, but more work in terms of looking at something and going, does this look look interesting to someone who's not creating it themselves? Does this look interesting? I mean, to anyone, really. Just look at it and go, does this look interesting? And if not, make something else. And then find some things that do look interesting and like see if you can build on them and make some animations that are cool and fit the music and stuff, which I think he kind of got to at the end, but it was sort of, it felt like a kind of an accident, not like an intentional building to a point. Or you know, so I really like that. I really like the ending with the spinning stars and the music syncing and the slowdown. It worked really well. I wish the track had more of that. And I think that's all I got to say. What do you have to say?
Yeah, I'm solidly there. Like, it started out with a tool that was interesting, but sort of not exactly applied super well. And then it diverged from that, and that was the best part of the track.
Yeah.
Which is weird because
the
entire track is like sort of based around a single concept, and then the second it decides to, like, the best part of the concept track is the part that's not in the concept.
Yeah.
But,
I mean, I think it was supposed to be like dual concept, but then like one was sort of transitions as sort of a filler. And then it was like, what if I just take this transition and extend it and make it into something else at the end? It was like, that was easily the best part of the track, even though I bet that that's not what he spent the most time on.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Solid.
Some cool ideas.
We come to that conclusion
we
like every
always
time.
come to that conclusion. We're always like, every single review, it's like, this track had some great ideas. Execution lacking. And it's like... well,
I wish I had a rubber stamp that said like, like great ideas, execution lacking, and just yeah, that's where I'm at.
We don't have high enough production values to make that happen on the screen right now, but if we did,
I could totally. I know how to do that now.
But like I can't just like press a button and make it happen.
Aw. Where's your soundboard? Not soundboard, like one of those big like button arrays that that one guy from Mad Money has or whatever.
I don't know what you're talking about, but I can picture it. But
yeah,
no, I don't have that. I'm literally just
like,
on a laptop right now with
same.
like a whole bunch of windows open.
Anyway, my point.
All right.
Several ideas misapplied. That's all I got.
But I really like the bit at the end. I want to see more like that.
Yeah.
More people do that. That's so cool.
Like,
And
develop it.
so
Make it mean something.
Yeah. Anyway. And we should work on tools to make animating easier in Line Rider. Okay, that's all I got.
Yeah.
Signing off.
See ya.